Well, hello everyone. This is Sharon with the Cozy Junk Studio. I am back with the Dark and Moody, Grungy, Chippy, maybe a little too dirty. Y'all will let me know in the comments. So I saw these really cool candle holders at Hobby Lobby, and I'm going to put a picture in right here so you can see what we're going to be doing. This was my inspiration piece, and so I dug through my junk to see what I had that might fall in the lines to look similar. And I found, like I said, these two wood pieces and this little silver bowl. I'm going to get these two pieces glued together. Like I said, short-term hot glue with the long-term wood-to-wood glue. And we're going to do the same with the silver bowl. I'm also going to use a nail in the center of the wood round on the bottom to, well, it's more like a coaster, I think, to attach it to the wood candle holder. You can also use a screw if you want to. That would help as well. Now I'm using this lid that came off of a Dollar Tree jar because I don't really like the bottom of my pieces to have a hollow area if I can help it. We're doing the same process with the glues to have this a long-term hold and to give this a base. I just want to let everyone know that these items are going to be available in my Etsy store for purchase. As you are watching this video, they are already listed. I'm dropping them as soon as I drop the video, and everything has free shipping on it. I'm hoping to do this moving forward, so when people ask to buy my items, they can just go to my Etsy store and buy them. My Etsy store is Cozy Junk Studio, just like my YouTube name. So we're going to go ahead and attach the top of this, again, just like the bottom. So here we have, and I'm showing you the comparison that, like I said, it was an inspiration piece, and it turns out really, really close to the inspiration piece. For the base of this, we're going to be using some DIY Little Black Dress paint to mimic the inspirational piece on the wood. Once I get this painted, or I think I stopped in the middle of painting this, I decided to fill, there's a little crease in between the two wood pieces, and I decided to fill that with some, it's like spackling or compound that you put on the wall to fill nail holes. So I'm going to do that before I finish painting this. Now that we have that painted bottom, we're going to work on the top silver piece of this. I'm going to use some wax to mimic the color on the inspirational piece. It had some different colors of silver and possibly whites and blacks, and I'm going to show you that inspirational piece again to show you why I'm doing this part. I'm using the Finnabair Old Silver wax and black soot at some point to get the look similar. Again, it's just an inspirational piece, but to give it the similar look. I did start out with my finger, and then I moved on to saran wrap. Oh, I show you up close there as well. The saran wrap will give it will keep my fingerprints off of it for one, and the wax will not soak into a cloth and waste the wax. It will not, where the saran wrap is not porous. Plus, it'll kind of give us that crinkly look. So that's what I'm using to finish this off on the outside and the inside. Also, I have not mentioned it in my videos yet, but I do use a huge silicone mat, which is what I work on. I got from Amazon, and I can pour and put anything on it and it just wipes off. So I'll have that linked in the description box below in my Amazon links. Now I'm just using some of this clear wax. It's Blue Mountain, which is also always linked in my description box below. Next, we are going to white wax this to get that same look in our inspiration piece. And I add a lot of white wax to this. I added the clear wax so that I was going to be able to rub some of this white wax back off, because the main area that I want it to be in is going to be those crevices. You all, I had so much fun making this piece look similar to that piece. I love how this white wax is turning this into the similarities. Oh my gosh. Oh, I just love it. Okay, so I do add, like I said, a couple rounds of this wax just to keep getting more and more built up in those crevices. We are going to add something different to ours, and it really makes this look a whole nother level. It is one of the IOD's Ephemera Melange little labels. For some reason, I just got it in my head that I wanted to add some red to this vignette, and it worked out with that ephemeral melange you're going to see as we do other pieces throughout. This did not have any problem adhering to the wax. It came off so easily, and I'm just burnishing it there, and then I do give it a little sanding to kind of make it aged to go with our piece. I'm going to go back over the label with the white wax and just touch up kind of where I've touched everything while I've been working on this, and wipe it back a little bit. We're going to use some of this. I forgot I had bought some of this Fusion matte tough coat from the lady that is clearancing out her Fusion. It is not really matte, you guys. It's more of a, honestly, it's shiny, but I do add that to seal in this piece. The wax would harden and seal on its own, but I wanted to go ahead and get it a quick seal with this matte tough clear coat from Fusion. All right, are y'all hanging with me so far? Let me know in the comments below what you think about that first piece. This next piece, although I love this sort of steampunk, fleur-de-lis, rustic look here, I want to make this piece over. This one is going to be lots of layers. I'm going to start out with something I think I want. I'm going to end up with something totally different. It's a lot of experiment. You don't have to do all this, but I enjoyed doing this piece so much. So we're starting out with some DIY in the color Gravel Road. I am putting a couple layers of this on because I'm really not sure what I want to do yet. And I do this with several pieces. I just give them a good light coat of paint and then move forward from there. I have my Mr. bottle of water at the ready because that's what I'm going to be using in this piece. I make a mixture of Sandy Blonde DIY and some salt wash. I was inspired by Sammy over at Unicorn Dust Designs. Go ahead and go over there and check out her channel if you're probably already one of her members, but I'm giving her some credit. I watched her video of the salvaged pieces she made, and it inspired me to use more of my salt wash too. So we're going to put some of that on this piece. I'm going to be using a art knife to do this, and I'm just scraping it on in different areas until I get tired of scraping it on. There's already some previous factory grunge crust on there, and it looks too perfect, so we're gonna kind of break that up with this salt wash mixture. I go ahead and add another coat of, I think that's beadboard. If not, it's crinoline to cover everything up. I want some of that sandy blonde color when I sand to come back through, and I want some of the gray, but I also want a brighter white because I'm going to be adding some additional colors on top of it, and you'll see coming up. I have this piece tilted up, and this color that I'm getting ready to start is with Farm Fresh, and I think I also use some aviary. I go in a different direction with the red. You'll see that I do start out with this because I'm thinking I'm going to do different colors, and I do, but it's not, they're more neutral. The way that I'm doing this is I'm just spreading some of the paint and then using my mister so that it will drip down to give it a drippy color effect. This next color is Prairie Gray. You all, I love this color. Oh, it's like a light weathered wood. So I'm adding that and some Old School, which is like a charcoal gray. It's beautiful as well. Going back in with some of the Sandy Blonde, because once I sand that back through, I also want to have some of that color on the exterior. I'm just wiping back so that it doesn't get overly wet. I still want that water to give this drippy look, and it's also going to reactivate all those paints. It just helps when you get ready to sand some of this back or wipe some of it back to show the base layers. So basically, I use a lot of different DIY paints. You'll see them laying over there to the side in the lids, wiping them on with a brush and then using the sprayer to dilute them to give it more of a washed look. A lot of it does get wiped back, but that is kind of the point because I really want this to look very aged, like it's weathered. Some of it's faded, look like it's had maybe several coats of paint. I don't know. You'll kind of see it does take a little bit of a turn when we get closer to the end. So I'm just taking my dryer and kind of drying this a little bit because I want to dry it to see what the paint looks like dry, because these colors do dry a lighter color than what they are on or how they come out of the jar. We're going to go ahead and start wiping some of this back off of the metal grommets and the metal piece on the front, as well as doing some sanding to kind of get the distressing started on this. It's so funny how this looks a lot different dry than wet. All right, so we have rubbed back a lot of the paint. We have wet distressed it. I'm going to continue doing that, and I'm going to take one of my palette knives and just put some of it on the back of the knife and like flat blade it across these high spots. I'm going to be using several different colors to do this. I dry that a little bit and I go in and add a little bit of white wax to kind of see how that's going to affect the look of that blading that I did on there. The blading is way too harsh and I'm not sure if I want to tone it or rub it back. I just know that I want to leave it on some of the high spots. Once I finish some of that, I'm going to go ahead and take this palette knife and start scraping down to that natural wood because I want this to look distressed back to the wood in some areas and then also chipped. And the best way that I found is to kind of scrape some of it back. And as you scrape or use a tool to get some of that paint off, if you use your wet washcloth or paper towel or whatever, it just really helps clean that area up and moisten that paint to get it to move back even further. Okay, so y'all have to tell me, is this looking really dirty or is this looking aged, weathered, old world? Did you like it before we did all this? Do you like the experimenting and the playing around? Let me know in the comments below. All right, so now we are going to add that touch of red even to this hugely distressed, grungy, dirty, I don't know, piece. You can see that I've already buffed that wax back. Our piece is a little shiny from the wax, and that's okay. I love how it looks. We're going to add some of these roses from this ephemeral melange from the IOD paper pack. And I just want to tell you, I don't know what it is about bumps and curves, but these transfers pop off so easy on a not flat surface, if that makes sense. As soon as I got it going, like the whole thing came off beautifully. Then I'm just gonna burnish that back with the back of this and then distress it with my little finger sander. Now again, all of the products that I mentioned that are available on Amazon will be linked in the description box below. This next project coming up is a junk trash to treasure. It is this little bird and this little glass bowl. I think these came in a set of 4 from Dollar Tree. And I think I used it for something else, but I'm going to turn this into a little statue. I thought I had the photo saved because this bird statue turns out almost identical to the one that is my inspiration piece. I start out by gluing the 3 pieces together with some E6000 and hot glue as a temporary hold. I end up using JB Weld on the bird base in between it and the lamp piece, which holds immensely. It this thing is not coming apart. It is just awesome. That JB Weld clear 5-minute setup glue is amazing. All right, so we're going to use that mixture of our salt wash and the Sandy Blonde paint, DIY paint together. And then we're going to cover the base with just the white, some white chalk paint and the weathered wood of DIY paint. Once we get those coats on, I'm going to go ahead and give this a coat of the polyacrylic to seal in those paints so that we can add some white wax and distress this little bird back. I love how this ends up blending together so well. It just really looks adorable. And you can put a little tiny plant coming out of the top of it. I used a faux plant for the vignette photos. But this thing, you all, it is so cute. For the white part on the bottom, we're going to go ahead and add some of the DIY dark wax to grungy that up just a little bit to keep with the whole grungy theme. And then we're going to finish this off with a little bit of sanding to bring back some of those base colors. Let me know what you think about this bird statue in the comments below. This next project is a very heavy piece. I don't know what it's made out of, but we are going to make this over to go with our Dark and Moody. When I started doing this project, I kind of painted everything a blank canvas, and I start out with a gray tone here. This, I think, is the DIY Gravel Road. I'm going to give this a good coat, and then we are going to move on to that dark moody style with this piece. This one's pretty simple. All right, now that we've got that covered, we're going to go in with a good coat of the DIY little black dress, and we are going to seal this up with some of the polyacrylic that I've been using. The reason why that I also did that coat was because when I do sand back through this or distress, I don't want that yellow coming through. I would rather it be a very light gray, or even a white would have been fine to go with this theme. I let that dry, and now I'm going in with my DIY white wax. And again, I sealed that because I want to be able to wipe this white wax back. Man, that was so difficult to say. So we're going to do that really heavily, and then the magic begins. Now we're going to start rubbing some of that back to bring that little black dress back through, and that's going to give us this smoky black. I just love it, y'all. I love white wax, you know that, and this is just going to fit in with, it's going to be such a neutral piece in this Dark and Moody vignette that we have going. As I'm doing this, and with any piece, you will see that sometimes I rub back the white wax and then I decide it's too much. So I put some white wax back on it. Don't be afraid to play with this stuff. You have that sealed up underneath. It is so easy to wipe back. And if you wipe back too much, add some more. There really are no mistakes. It's whatever it ends up looking like that you enjoy. As I was looking at this piece, I realized there were some very small crevices that I did not get in with my white wax, so I'm just taking a very tiny brush and putting that white wax down in those crevices. Now that we have our white wax on there, and I feel like it is where I want it to be, I'm going to go ahead and go in and start distressing. I'm wet distressing right now. As you can see, that DIY paint does distress back very beautifully with just a damp rag, and then I want to do a little bit of scratching with the sandpaper, so that's why I'm using my sandpaper now. You can get two different distress looks with the wiping back with the rag and then with the sandpaper itself. I am just doing some final touches here with the sandpaper and the wet distressing on the edges. And this piece is finished. What do you all think about this one? This one was pretty simple. Our next project or piece is this candle, and to be honest with you, I'm not sure. I'm still on the fence about this piece. You'll see when it's finished. I go ahead and take out this battery operated candle and I leave it open to just place a regular candle down in there. That way, if you want to put a candle in it, you can, or you can use it as a riser. So we're going to go ahead and use that mixture of the Sandy Blonde with the salt wash, and just adding some pieces around or little spots around on it to add some texture. I lost some footage here, but I mixed up two different DIY paints to get this kind of a warm white. But honestly, I do leave it this color. But the top, I did go back in and paint it a bright white because we are going to use some DIY gravel road and then add some waxes to make this look like a tin top. I've let that gravel road dry and it looks very, very light. I assure you it's a little grayer than what it's showing, but it does dry a lot lighter than the wet paint. Now, if I was going to add some sealer to this, it would turn it back gray, but I'm using this as a base. I'm using this old silver in Prima, is it Prima? Finnabair waxes to make this look like a tin, and I'm just going to start out using my finger to spread this wax around the top and then underneath the bottom. We're going to go ahead and white wax this, and then I'm going to add some other elements and some sanding to make it look more of an aged tin. I'm working on the base right now, sanding it some as well. To give it an aged look, we're going to go ahead and use some of this dark wax by DIY. We're going to use that on, I think, the whole base and top of this, and it just gives it a different dimension as far as the coloring of the tin. Well, it's not really a tin. Well, it did start out as a tin. Oh my gosh. Anyways, you see what I'm doing. I'm working on wet distressing this now to bring back some of the original colors through, and again to make this wax seem more aged, because the old silver is very bright silver and I want this to look heavily distressed. Now don't forget the photos will be in the end of this video if I do not show a preview beforehand. This next piece is a cool tin that's already got some aging, and I'm taking that mixture we already have talked about with the salt wash in it, and I'm adding some texture to this to break up that factory pattern. Once I let this dry, I'm going to paint it a white color. Then I'm going to add the little black dress to this, just like we did the other piece. This one's going to turn out a little different though. It's going to have a little kick to it. Once I let that dry, I'm going to use this clear wax. I'll have this linked below in my description box. It is from one of my Amazon affiliate links. I use the wax because I'm going to immediately go in and wet distress this a lot. So the wax just makes it a little easier to wet distress, plus gives it a barrier, because I am going to white wax this as well, even though I'm distressing back to the white paint. You'll see once this one is heavily distressed the way that I want it, I'm going to go ahead in with some white wax and wax this. And I decided to add a transfer. Yes, after I waxed it. I know you're not supposed to do that, but I did, and the transfer came off so easy onto it. I don't know what it is about uneven surfaces. These things just pop off like magic. We're going to use this little rose set, and again, this is from the IOD Ephemeral Melange, and I'm just going to press it down in all those little cracks, and I'm going to take my little bone folder, because this girl cannot keep up with those plastic sticks that they come with. I don't know why. And I'm just going to rub it, and once it comes off, it just looks so cool because it cracks down in those little cracks and it makes itself aged right away. I'm going to go ahead and apologize because after this is it. I don't know what happened to the rest of the footage. We're moving on. So don't forget, the photos will be at the end of this video. These are two little spindles. I picked up a little pack of these from a junk store. They were $2 for like 6. They had just broken them apart, and I left them that way. I didn't do anything to the ends that were broken. I added that mixture of the sandy blonde with the salt wash. And now I'm just adding some of this cottage white and folk art chalk paint to give this a base, because we're going to stamp on these. Once we get these completely painted, we're going to distress them back some. I really want big chunks sanded off of these to make them look really, really rustic and distressed. I was feeling very dingy, dirty, crusty, chippy when I did these. I don't know. I love how they turned out. I know it's not everybody else's style, but y'all tell me what you think in the comments below. I know that I just did a more cottage core, not so dark and grungy. So tell me about this video. What do you think about it? You like this dark and dingy style, or dark and moody, compared to the cottage core? You guys gave me some great feedback on that cottage core. Thank you all for all of those comments. We're white waxing these to have a little bit of a barrier because we are going to do some dark waxing. We're going to be using a DIY dark wax to go over both of these pieces. We're going to be using the IOD traditional pots stamps. Since these are a round surface, I'm going to go ahead and use my StazOn jet black ink to stamp on these because it dries almost instantly and does not transfer. Once we finish stamping these, we will seal these with some of that polyacrylic just to give everything a nice finish. And these spindles are done. Now, on to the next project. You all, I love the black on this clock, but I went outside of the box. I was going to tell you all that during this video. Red is not really a color that I use often. I used to love red when I was younger, like love red. However, you know, as we age, things change and our tastes change. So red is something I use at Christmas, maybe the 4th of July. That is why I wanted to step outside my comfort zone for this video. I wanted to do dark and moody, but add a little bit of color. So that's where red came in. I was looking through the ephemeral melange package and decided red was going to be it. So I decided to paint this clock red. I go ahead with our mixture and add some texture to this. Everything's got to have texture in this video. Give it a good coat of that here and there, and then let that dry. And then off camera, I added just a coat of white chalk paint. Now we're starting with the red. And this is the DIY Carnival Red. I had a jar that I've had for a while, and it's very thick. If you can see over there in the corner, the clay has really clumped up. But like I said, I don't use red that often, and you can add water back to the DIY paint and let it sit and it will soften back up. So I went ahead and added a good coat of this red, and I'm just going to sand this back through to the white and some of the black. It really turns out looking so cool because now we have white and black underneath there. I don't worry about taping off my clock face. I'm just going to use a razor blade and scrape that right off. But I'm going to sand this. I'm going to highly distress this piece between wiping back with a damp rag and this sander. This finger sander will also be listed in the description box below under my Amazon affiliate links. You all have to let me know what you think about this one in the comments below. I'm really interested in hearing what you think about this distressed red clock. By the way, you all, this whole video was so messy, or this whole project was so messy, where I had all the grunge, all the distress, all of the texture. It was just, my hands were red and it was just very messy, but it was so much fun. So now we're going to finish this off with some of this Fusion Tough Coat Matte Finish. I've used a few different sealers for this video. It really just depends on the piece. There are some differences. This has more of a matte finish than the poly. The poly I was using is a high gloss, and of course the wax is a different consistency, and it does take a lot longer to cure. So like I said, it really just depends on the piece, depending on what I use to seal them with. This next piece, oh, this clock is finished. Now again, don't forget the photos will be coming up. This next piece was a weird looking maroon color. I spray painted it black to give it a good base to cover that slick. And then I painted it a white, I think. This was a piece I'd started working on and then stopped and then dug it back out of my stash. So we're adding that texture on there that we've added to our other pieces. And we're going to kind of do this one the way that we did the large wood piece of art. We're going to do a lot of drippy wet painting on this. Now we've let that dry, we are adding a coat of, I think this is bead board, to start our base coat for the drippiness. We're going to start off with some of the similar colors we used in the first project that we did like this, starting out with the prairie gray. We're going to add some old school, and most of this gets wiped back. It really just gets down in those cracks and crevices to give it an aged look. I distress it a little bit, seal it with a good clear coat of the polyacrylic, and this piece is done. You will see the photos coming up. Now, on to the photos. I really hope you have liked this video. It is a longer video for me, but I had a lot of processes and we did quite a few pieces. I hope you are enjoying the photos of this Dark and Moody, and don't forget these items are available in my Etsy shop, Cozy Junk Studio. The listing link is in the description box below. I want to thank all of my new subscribers. Thank you all for all of the comments. I try to answer them all, but if I don't, I do want to let you know that I do read them all, and I'm very appreciative of all of the time that you take out of your day to watch these videos. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I am Cozy Junk Studio over there as well. I would love to have you follow me over there. I try to post over there some of the sneak peeks for these videos. Again, let me know in the comments below, what do you think about these pieces? Which was your favorite? Is this something that is outside of your comfort zone, using a different color or a bright color? And here is the vignettes of the pieces. Thank you all again for watching this video, and I will see you in the next video.